Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pints and Politics. My name is Drew. I'm here with Mike and with Chris Chubb,
Chubb.
right? Just
That's it.
making sure. Chris,
Just
who are you? Let's just start off with who are
Hold on
you?
1 second. Where are we today? We
Oh,
start every one of these podcasts
I
with
know. I
where
want.
we're at, right? So usually we're at a bar somewhere having a drink of some type or another, but we are at the Minneapolis Republican Hall in beautiful, I don't know, is this downtown Minneapolis? But
Is it beautiful?
this is
Well,
the warehouse district.
I have to make it sound good. It's not God's country, but we're trying to make it God's country.
Okay,
How's that
I
sound?
got you.
All right. So yeah, thank you for opening up your studio for us to do the podcast today, and we're trying to bring some of that connection from Greater Minnesota to the Metro. So with that being said, Chris, introduce yourself. Let our listeners and viewers know who you are.
My name is Chris Chubb, spelled just like the running back for the Browns. I'm running for Minnesota State House District 38B. I'm a full-time welder. I was active duty military for a while. Unlike our governor, I actually have been to Iraq. He may not know what it is, but when your military patch is on your right shoulder, that's called a combat patch. And mine is permanently sewn on. That's the quick and dirty. What do you guys got?
Well, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing what some people chose not to do. How will we put it that way?
To be fair,
Just get into it.
in my active duty unit, when we got orders to invade Iraq, there was a lot of platoon sergeants that had 19 years active, and they put in their retirement packets, and they all got denied, unlike a certain sergeant major.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I know at least one scenario was very much the same thing. A person I used to work with, same thing, got called up. He was in Minnesota here and said, I signed up to go to school, not to go to war. And he retired. He did the same thing.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I signed up to learn how to be a mechanic.
There you
I
go.
learned in an Iraqi farm field.
All right, just for the record, so Governor Walz, current Governor Walz, running as VP for president under Kamala Harris, was in the military as a sergeant major, and he retired right before the deployment to run for Congress, correct?
Yes, this happened in
Yeah.
2018.
Yep, so I just want to make sure that we have the story out there in case anybody doesn't know, but it's been in the news quite a bit.
I think he ran for Senate.
No, he was
Was it Congress?
he was House.
Okay. Oh, yeah, he ran for House first.
Yep,
That's
so
right. Yep.
sergeant major in the Guard, correct?
Yes,
Yep, and then he retired right before deployment.
correct.
Which is really
It's not unheard of,
it's
to be
unheard
fair.
of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at the same time, this has put such a spotlight on Minnesota
Yeah.
with him becoming VP. So we're seeing so much more national attention on not just his record as a guardsman, but also the radicalism that has happened under his governorship.
Actually, the
You
word
know-
I would use for is bailing. If he was bailing because he didn't want to go to war, I'd probably call him a coward. And so, and then for running for Congress, like it's a calling. So I'm not going to hate him for that. It's just what was his reasoning, and if it was, we have to push that. But during his governorship, especially during 2020, we did see cowardice.
Mhm.
So I don't want to go too.
No, it wasn't cowardice.
No?
It absolutely was not.
No.
He waited for till the fourth day to call up the National Guard because his wife had the kitchen window open because she liked the smell of the city burning.
Actually,
So
I have
that's
not heard.
I have
this.
read that.
I have not heard this.
That's another thing that just came out, and that
Are you
proves my
kidding?
point that this puts us in that spotlight. It puts the radicalism that's happened in the state of Minnesota under his governorship
Yeah.
in full spotlight. When his wife made that comment, I had never heard that before. But that is on national news. I think I saw it on Fox News just recently where she opened the windows to smell the smell of burning tires. So as your city, as your state is in this massive, revolution basically,
Yeah.
you're reveling in that chaos.
She's fiddling as the city burns, huh?
Fiddling as the city burns, exactly. I
Yeah.
used that line the other night. So let's go back a little bit because you're running for House,
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
right? And first time running,
Yes.
okay? How has that experience been for you?
A bit of a whirlwind, but it is kind of fun. It gives me an excuse to go for walks and chat with people in the neighborhood, gives me something to talk about. Had me thinking about things to talk to my neighbors about, and has me thinking about how can even my candidacy make the state a better place.
I like to hear that.
So
We have a state here that's gone very liberal, and I use this all the time. I say there's two lies that are told in politics in the state of Minnesota. And the first one, that this is a Democrat state. It is not. And the second lie is that the Metro or the conservatives, I'm sorry, Greater Minnesota and the conservatives can't outvote the Metro. Those are two lies that get told all the time. But look at the numbers, and we can. We can absolutely win in the state. So thank you for running, because here in the Metro, we need to pick up those votes. And in your district, which remind me here,
38B, mostly Brooklyn Center, plus a little bit here and there.
if I remember right, and looking at those numbers in the past, I think the voter turnout in that area was only about 10,000 voters. Now, typically in a House district, you should have between about 16 and 20 generally. So that means we're leaving votes on the table.
Yeah, there's a lot of people sitting on the bench, and I'm just hoping that the economy is bad enough right now that they're gonna like at least pay attention to their
Yeah.
wallet and be mad enough to make it worth their time to go vote.
yeah, because you can't ignore the rising cost of food. It's
Right.
through the roof. You pick up half a grocery cart and it's like $200. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it
you,
really is.
you buy 3 items at Cub and you spent $20 and you don't know how it happened.
Yeah, it's most. Well, I think most of it's gas prices with the increase of gas, because everything ships on diesel, which is gas, and if the cost of shipping is higher, then the cost of the good needs to be higher to make a profit.
And VP Harris wants to end all fracking and offshore drilling, just like Joe Biden did. I mean, they ran on shutting down coal power, and they drove up our energy costs. And they ran on stopping oil exploration, and they did, and they drove up our fuel costs. They are people of their word. They told you that they were going to drive up the cost of energy, and they did that for you.
Yep, and now the cost of everything else is up. It's funny how
if you
that works
could
out.
give us like a couple defining issues that would tell the listeners or viewers more about you. You know, what are the biggest issues that you see, not just in your district necessarily, but maybe it's in the state? You know, what is going to set you apart, because you have a primary.
Yes, absolutely. And the primary is on Tuesday, August 13th.
That's
And
right.
so we're coming down to the wire to find out whether or not I'm going to be competing in November or if I'm going to have a part-time job in November. But all right, so everybody talks about the price of rent. They're all freaked out about the price of rent, but nobody's freaked out about the housing supply. Because if there's an abundance in the housing supply, rent doesn't skyrocket every year when you come up for renewal. So what we need is, the government only does two things. It points guns at people and locks them up, and it tries to get them to do things or not do things based on how they tax things. So if we can pull back the taxes on new construction homes that are 1,200 square feet and under that regular people can afford, then regular people can afford to get out of these rental situations, and they can start building equity for their future, and they can escape this rent cycle. And as they begin escaping the rent cycle, then the rents go down because there will be less demand for those apartments, and they'll have to drop their prices in order to get occupancy. The other thing that I would like to do is, Democrats love the poor and they love the environment. And I look at all the parks around the metro and in Minnesota, and the thing that I don't see is plants and trees that produce food. And if we had, our area recently got promoted to growing zone 5A. Well, what does that mean? That means we can grow figs. It means we can grow peaches. It means we can grow plums. It means we may even be able to grow something called pawpaw, which is a native North American mango species. I mean, we can be planting in our parks, and we could have a park system where you don't send your kid with a snack to the playground. The snacks are at the playground. It's part of the ambience.
I like that.
That's an interesting
And
idea.
fun fact, the University of Minnesota is where the Honeycrisp apple came from. So we could do Honeycrisp apple trees around
So
Minneapolis.
my wife gives me grief about having mine filled with useless knowledge.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, Drew.
You know,
Now
this is useful.
I feel like I'm in good company.
This is useful knowledge because you get the apple and then it's symbolic to the state. It's the most popular apple on the planet. and it was invented in Minnesota.
They have also invented several other strains of apple, but the wonderful thing about the University of Minnesota is they have their own apple orchard where they're developing the new strains. And even if you haven't finalized a strain, you can do branch cuttings to create clones of that tree.
Yep.
And we might not necessarily need to pay for all the trees that I want to plant. We might be able to just get cuttings from the U of M.
Well, and one thing I see there is like what you brought up. The U of M is paid for by taxpayer. I mean,
Yeah.
given taxpayer dollars to do this stuff. We plant trees already in parks,
Yeah.
and we're seeing across Minneapolis and parts of the cities where there's going to have to be millions of ash trees that are going to be removed because of the emerald ash borer. So if you're going to replant trees, let's make it something productive. Now, in greater Minnesota, we do this on a regular basis. Every year we have tree sales. I can't tell you how many apples. We have pears that are growing up there now, although they're only about this big because this is the third or fourth year. But I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's very.
And then on top of that, let's use the universities. Then the students can actually feel like they're contributing to society, and it ties them in better.
And also keep in mind that cities will have Arbor Day events in the spring. My girlfriend is on the Crystal Park board, and she hosted an Arbor Day event this year where they were giving away apple trees, and they didn't manage to give them all away. So she got a hold of me and she said, "How many do you want me to bring back to your house?" And I said, "All of them, as many as you can." She only brought me 3. So now I only have 6 apple trees in my front yard.
Well, the other idea or the other thing that you brought up there is housing. And housing is a very big issue, not just in the metro, but across Minnesota. So you alluded to the regulation and taxes. And that's one thing that I think resonates with a lot of people, especially in the state of Minnesota here, when we had a $19.5 billion surplus, which is gone.
And it didn't change your life for the better. If you average that out to every man, woman, and child, and them in the state, that comes up to $3,000 a person in your household. Did you get a return on investment from that surplus to the tune of $3,000 per person in your house?
Yeah, but if we do that, how are we going to increase government spending?
Well, they already taxed another $10 billion on top of that surplus.
Oh,
So
nice.
funny fact, you brought up the 3,000 and it instantly resonates because Comrade Walz said he was going to fight to give you that $2,000 check back,
Yeah.
which
What happened to
people
that?
said we're going to get this back. You got a $250 check, right?
Yeah, and then I had to pay income tax to the feds on that $250.
Exactly.
So not only is Governor Walz a bad governor, he also owes us money. That's what I'm hearing here.
See, there's.
I mean, it's a good thing I'm not a mobster. I'd have to go find a bat.
Well, it's funny because I actually presented a bill that number that you brought up, $3,000, was the number that should be returned to the taxpayers in the state. And it actually left a little bit left of that surplus to pay for bonding. So we would not have had to take out bonding money to pay for our roads, bridges, infrastructure. So thank you for bringing that up. That $3,000, I believe, was taxpayer money, should have went back to the taxpayers. What happened with it, though, was the growth of government, one-time money that will go to long-term government growth. It is unsustainable.
Absolutely.
And they're saying possibly a $2+ billion deficit by 25-26.
Oh, don't worry, he'll raise our taxes again.
So
Yeah.
there we are, when people are feeling those regulations and we can cut regulations, we can cut taxes, what you're saying, to help take care of some of those housing issues. These are things that directly impact the voters in your area.
Well, if they aren't building the smaller, like 1, 2, maybe 3-bedroom homes, it's because they're not making enough money off of it to make it profitable for them. If we can remove the taxes they're going to have to pay on the sale of that new construction home, we make it more profitable for them to do that. And then they're just servicing their own greed by helping the people.
So when we see more houses go up too, that actually adds to the tax base. Because when you have more single-family homes, they are getting taxed on their property versus a large apartment, and you're putting more back into the tax base, which is a good thing.
And homeowners take better care of their community
Absolutely.
than renters. You can go to any
That's true.
any grocery store, any Walmart, any Target, and see like are the shopping carts in the corral or not. If you live in an area with a lot of renters, there's going to be less of them in the corral than there could be if it was a community of owners.
Yeah.
Pride and ownership.
Yep. And when you own something, you do take care of it more. You do see that. And
Because it's your responsibility.
it
There's no
becomes your
landlord coming to
responsibility.
pick up the litter in your front yard. It's you.
Exactly. And I've kind of noticed something similar to this on the Indian reservations where it's a little bit more socialist, where they get more universal basic income, and that they don't really take care of their properties as much as like a homeowner does in just anywhere in Minnesota. Does that track with anyone?
I can't
Am I
speak
the
to
only
that.
one?
I don't gamble
Oh,
in casinos, so I don't
I'm
know.
trying to rag on socialism in a little bit. I'm taking a weird path, I'll be honest.
Well, we've quoted
We-
Thomas Sowell and Milton Friedman many times on this
Yeah.
show. And when you hand out things to people, it doesn't mean as much.
We tried
Yeah.
universal basic income in the pandemic by giving people more money to stay home on unemployment than actually working.
Yeah,
I actually got laid off in the like about a month into the pandemic. I had a scheduled interview that afternoon. I interviewed at 9:30 the next morning. I was peeing in a cup that afternoon. I missed 4 hours of work that week that I got laid off. Now I could have signed up for unemployment and made more money, but I have self-respect and I took my butt to work.
Yeah.
So we have another thing on your sheet here that I wanted to hit up on because it's very big, especially in the metro, but it is statewide, and it's something that we're going to talk, I'm sure, with the other candidates about, and that's crime in the metro. So, what are your thoughts? You have a comment here on your paper about against crime, especially car theft in Hennepin County.
Okay,
So
yeah.
tell us your thoughts.
My next door neighbor's car has been broken into twice in the last month. My next door neighbor on the other side had his garage broken into so someone could try to steal the motorcycle out of that. And I had a stolen Kia crash into a front yard 3 doors down from me. All of this has happened within like the last 6 weeks. This is insane.
So
Last year-
the police movement probably isn't efficient.
Just
Just a question.
No, I think our choice of Hennepin County DA was poor because last year she let 9,700 people arrested for car theft go. And,
9,700.
9,700.
You're sure on that number?
Oh, yeah.
That is a lot of cars getting stolen in Hennepin County.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people being arrested and caught for car theft.
And yeah, you only promote crime when you don't enforce it. And these people, so they're getting arrested. They're basically being like, yeah, sure, go steal cars, have fun, go make money off of this crime. We're not going to do anything.
I've been asking the
Back
question.
up to the 9,700. What's the time period on that again?
2023.
1 year
Yeah.
in one county.
Yeah.
9,700 cars.
Yeah.
No, that's
I'm
just
still processing.
that's
it.
just
I
the
apologize.
people that she let go.
My gosh.
The
Yes.
overall number's got to be higher than that. I don't know what it is. It's just like the shock value on the local news of 9,700 people let go for car theft.
Yeah.
That's about half my county. I'm just putting it into comparison.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
That's an amazing
half of
number.
Todd County is stealing cars.
Or had their car stolen.
Yes.
Yeah,
And-
well, that too.
Then
And certain
What if
people,
it's the same car though?
certain people have had their car stolen multiple times. I spoke to a gentleman this week who mentioned that a cousin of his Kia has been stolen so many times that his car insurance company won't cover it anymore.
so by policies put in place, by legislation, by the governor, signed off by the governor, I should say, is making Minneapolis, Hennepin County, our state, less safe,
Yep.
less secure.
It is, and I keep asking the question, and nobody has an answer for me on whether or not the people of Hennepin County can file a class action lawsuit against that DA for her driving up our car insurance costs.
I'm sure you
Interesting.
could. You can sue over anything.
Where will it go with our current system, though, is the question.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know.
You'd end up taking that to Supreme Court, I would guess, in the state of Minnesota, which would probably be a tough sell. But you're right, if the policies that you put in place are enabling 9,700 cars in that area to be stolen, or more than that,
No,
of course.
yeah.
Stolen,
And
and,
then-
it doesn't matter.
Wow.
It just doesn't matter. Stolen, you stole it, and you were caught. No, goodbye. Have a nice day. Before the cop is done filling out the paperwork, you're walking away.
I'm still having a hard time processing it, to be honest with you.
Well,
It's
we
a
got
staggering
a
number.
staggering number.
Have you never heard of Minneapolis referred to as Moscow on the Mississippi?
I never have.
Oh, that's
Hey.
I
great.
need to spend
You got
more
any-
time down here, I guess, because I do love,
Yeah.
Russian cocktails and stuff like this.
Well, fun. Well, so to kind of condense everything, so you want enforcement of laws, you want lower crime, you want to lower rent, less taxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and
We're gonna tie everything up in a pretty bow here.
and I want our parks to be full of trees that just produce food.
So a little hippiness. I like the hippie stuff.
Well, I like the creative idea,
Yeah.
because it's not something I've ever heard before. If we want solutions to problems, we have to offer some solutions,
Yeah.
right?
Every time we spend money on helping the poor, it only helps one person one time. If you want to really help the poor, spend money that will help people for decades.
Yeah. Yeah. So long-term solutions.
Yeah,
I like it.
I think that's interesting. I like it. So you also have a primary, and let's make sure that we emphasize this again, because August 13th is the primary,
Yep. This
Yes,
is
sir.
coming out August 12th.
and I believe that the turnout typically for primaries is only about 10% of the voters,
Mm-hmm.
which to me is just abysmal.
Your vote never has more impact than it does during a primary. And if you're not showing up for me, for my primary, which I'd love it if you did, but keep in mind we have multiple people trying to represent us for Senate in the Republican Party. And take a look at the list. It's fairly long. Pick somebody that you like and get out there on Tuesday the 13th.
Absolutely, that's great. Can't complain if you don't get involved. I've
Exactly.
used that line many times.
Well,
So yeah, is there anything else that you want to hit? We're getting towards the end of our time here. Any other subjects, topics that you want to give a quick
shout
shout
out.
out to? Or
No, I think we're good. It's been
awesome.
fun.
Awesome. Thank you so
So-
much for coming on.
Well, yeah, thank you for being here. This has been great. Once again, we're at the Minneapolis Republican Hall, and if you want to look them up,
It's mplsgop.org.
awesome. I had to write it down. He knew that off the top of his head. So
He
that's
doesn't
great.
understand that MPLS means Minneapolis. And if you didn't know, GOP means Grand Old Party.
I figured that one out.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure
Thought
I'm
I meant
dyslexic
Republicans.
sometimes.
It does.
But no, this is great, and I appreciate you being here, sitting down and talking with us. We've talked about how we get past some of that urban rural divide, and we have these conversations. We get to know the other Republicans and the other areas who are running, because in a district like mine, it's a 75% district. Can I help other candidates down here get across that finish line? Can we move the needle on these races? Because historically, the Metro was actually Republican at one time.
You know,
We can bring it back.
you mentioned the urban-rural divide. There is one other thing I'd like to bring up.
Sure.
You go on a road trip through Minnesota, and you're going to end up seeing a solar farm over pasture. Why in the world are those solar panels not shading our cars in the parking lot at Costco instead of shading the ground over pasture?
Climate change. That's quick and simple. It's all about climate
But we
change.
need the grass receiving sunlight to capture carbon into the ground.
Yeah, but then you don't get man-made climate change, and then you can't sell policy on it.
Yeah, but I'd like to park in the shade.
I feel ya.
If they're
I
not gonna
feel ya.
put- if
But
they're not
what's more
gonna-
important?
So I have seen some drawings, some sketches about doing exactly that, putting solar panels over parking lots. One of the concerns was the posts and stuff,
Yeah.
but I'd imagine we can figure out some
Yeah,
solutions.
we can figure something better
You know,
out.
Part of it's infrastructure. It costs to put some of those things in, but if the climate is so severe, the changes need to happen so quickly. You're right. Why are we putting it out in greater Minnesota? But I'm not going to go on this.
Well,
That's
yeah.
another one.
Yeah.
If there are solutions that you're offering here, which I think are great, it's out of the box thinking, and it's like we can't just be the party of no. We have to be
Yeah.
the party of let's find some solutions, some
A
ideas.
better solution.
That's right.
Yeah,
So I think that's great.
yeah. Anyway, we got a couple more candidates coming on. Hate to cut it short. Great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks a lot for coming in. Thanks
Yeah.
for your service.
So,
man.
but yeah, again, this is Pints and Politics. Thank you guys. We'll get to our next candidate.